Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good day to you, doctor. I hope you are doing well. My name is Wan Muhammad Muhammad Najib, and my group member Nabila, Emmanuel, and Marlene are presenting about manufacturing process of vehicle tyre. Okay, let's go to the introduction. Tyre help a vehicle in steering, carrying load, cushioning, and transmitting drive. Tyre are composite structure that consists of many layers. You can see that in the picture. On the surface, you can see the side, thread, block, rib, dimple, shoulder, void ratio, a grooving, and underneath that layer we have under thread, edge cover, carcass, body parts, thread, wall, and so on. Now, the objective of this project is to enable students to understand how products are made in industries. Students should be able to perform surveys, review, or studies for selected product using various resources, enable students to improve their writing skills for project write-up. The next slide will be talking about the advantage and disadvantage of the type of manufacturing process of tyre. Now, we will get into detail on the next slide on 3.0, but at the moment we're only going to talk about advantage and disadvantage. First, calendaring. The advantage of calendaring is good at handling polymers that are heat sensitive, good at mixing polymers that contain high amount of solid additive that cannot be blended in well, produce a large amount of melt than extrusion. While disadvantage is very expensive. If thickness is less than 0.006 inches, there is a tendency for pinholes and void to appear on sheets. And if thickness is greater than that, there is a risk of air entrapment. Next is bamboo remixing. Advantage of that is kneading capacity is large and the time need is short, while low labor intensity and operational safety. Disadvantage is high mixing temperature can cause temperature sensitive rubber compound to scorch and need for latex supplementary processing. Next is milling. Advantage is energy efficient. Rubber sheets produced are of uniform thickness, low labor intensity, and low machine noise level. Disadvantage is not effective on fiber or two-dimensional product. Additional operating inputs are required to adjust roll. Including advantage is low cost, flexibility in producing product with consistent cross-section, allow for post-extrusion manipulation. Disadvantage is size variance, limitation on product that can be manufactured. Tyre building machine. Advantage is suitable for long production batch and fast method of tyre production. Now, there's a lot of advantage. One rank is only suitable for production of open construction tires. The drum required is complex and expensive, and changing the machine setting is a slow procedure and high operating cost. Curing press. Advantage is curing time is short, can cure large quantities of tires, provide innovative patterns on tire. Advantage is high cost of steam energy, high maintenance effort, lack of flexibility in setting individual parameters, risk of quality impairment due to local overheating following condensation. That is all for my part. Next, my member will be talking a lot more detail about all the type of manufacturing process. Thank you for listening.
Ms. Nur Nabila binti Rosnizan. I'm going to explain about tyre assembly process. The figures show below the overall process of tyre making. It consists of 3 parts, the part 1, part 2, and part 3. For part 1, it begins with textile, then it followed by the fabric and fabric bias cutter and sheet calendar. Then it will send it to the tyre building machine. For the second part is a combination of natural rubber and chemical through the bamboo mixer. The mixture will go to the extrude process and it will send it to the tyre building machine. For the third part, it is steel. Then it's going through the bead, belt, and carcass wire process. Then it will divide into the two sections, which is wire calendar and bead construction. For the wire calendar, it will go through the wire treatment cutter first, then it will send to the tyre building machine. For bead construction, it will go straight away to the tyre building machine. The tyre building machine will combine all the parts together to form a tyre. The tyre will go to the curing process and then the visual inspection, balance, force variation, and X-ray. The X-ray is to see if the tyre got any deflection. Then it conclude all the parts together. We will get the finished product. Next slide is I'm going to explain part of the assembly process. The first part is compounding and binary mixing. The binary mixer combines the raw material to create a homogeneous rubber material. The material we use is chemical and natural rubber. The second is the major ingredients are placed on the conveyor system and a membrane mixer to begin the mixing. Components such as accelerator, antioxidant, antioxidant, extruder, vulcanizer, pigment, plasticizer, reinforcing agent, and resin are added to produce rubber for the tire manufacturing. The second part of the process is milling. Milling is a process of shaping a rubber. The rubber is forced through two set roller rotating in a different direction at a different speed. This shape the rubber into a flat and a long strip. The third part is a calendering and extruding. Calendering machine consists of the often four rolls where rubber sheets are forced. Calendar machine has the following function. The first function is to prepare compounded rubber as a uniform sheet as defined thickness and width. The second function is to place thin coat rubber on a fabric, which is coating or skimming. The third function is to force rubber into the interstice of fabric by frictioning. These are the binary mixer, and this is a calendering process. The fixed stock and the fabric is combined together to bond a coated fabric. So that's all for my part.
Good morning to our manufacturing process lecturer Zulkifli and my fellow friends. So now I'll be explaining about the extruding process. So the extruder functions by forcing through rubber through drives to create tube-like rubber components. So the main components of the extruder consist of screw, barrel, head and die. The extruder in the tire manufacturing process is used to make the large flat sections of tire treads. So how the extruder functions is raw material is dropped through the hopper, which is then also mixed in with other additives, and this mixture is then brought through the barrel, and in this barrel a controlled heating process occurs. The heating process is a controlled process to prevent the unwanted hydrocarbons from forming in the barrel, and this mixture is then the heated mixture is then forced through the die to create the shape that is needed. So the next slide is component assembly and building. So the tire assembly machine consists of a rotating drum where components are assembled. Feeding devices supply the tire builder with components to assemble the tire. So after this process, the tire that is produced is called a green tire. So this can be seen in Appendix C. So in Appendix C, as you can see, the green tire does not have any tread because does not have any tread and has not undergone a curing process. So it's still an incomplete tire. So the green tire is then sprayed with a solvent or water-based material to prevent it from adhering to the curing mold, which brings us to the next process, which is curing and vulcanizing. So green tires are placed into the curing press, or also known as the press loading equipment. This curing press uses steam to heat and cure the green tires, as well as transfer the tread. So this can be seen in Appendix D. So in Appendix D, you can see that when the steam uh, used is pumped into the cavity, the tire then expands and is pressed up against the wall. So this transfers the tread onto the tyre. So during this process, the vulcanization also occurs. So this transfers the material to a non-tacky, less pliable, and longer lasting state. So as for the inspection and finishing, the the first finishing operation is the operator trims off the excess rubber from the tire or is ground using grinder. So after that, inspection is done to make sure the tire shape is uniform and geometrically correct. So this is done by doing these few inspections, which are visual inspection, X-ray inspection, balance inspection, and force variation inspection. So as for the next slide, I would like to pass it to Vimalan to explain.
Hi, I'll be covering for the packaging side. So as we aware that every product that we produce, there need a process to be go through, which is the packaging process. So for the tire making industry, the packaging process is the complete tires are wrapped in plastic film using machines before being shipped or stored. Tire is placed on a locating wheel and package wrap is tied in a place. Then the machine is activated to automatically wrap the tire. A flywheel then automatically positions the tire upward and fix it in position. The tire is then removed by the operator. So these are the steps or process for the tire making industry. So for the next slide, we can look into the manufacturing issue. So whatever product we produce, there sure will be an error or defects. So for the tire manufacturing, the defects are carcass embossing. The potential cause of the defect is the membrane position incorrectly in vulcanization process or improperly encased carcass fibers. So the next defect is the carcass rarefaction. Too much stretch material during production process and technological connection. The next one is open thread connection. Failure to provide adequate cleanliness when connecting the thread bed during production. This means that there is no cleanliness during the process, which causes the open thread connection. The next one will be the thread separation in the solder part. So the cause of it is failure to provide adequate cleanliness, water or oil droplets during production. This means that during the process, water or oil or any other factors that affect the process, which causes the thread separation in the solder part. The last defect is the bulk separation under the thread. This cause is failure to provide adequate cleanliness, roll water condensate during production. So these are the defects that occurs during tire manufacturing process. The next one is conclusion. So for the conclusion part, tire manufacturing is highly dependent on the raw material rubber. So this is the raw material rubber. Without this, there cannot be any production for the tire. So the next one will be there are advantage and disadvantage to the process used in making tires. Rubber has to be combined with other material and undergo various processes in order to make tires. Defects can occur on tires during manufacturing if proper procedure is not followed. So these are the conclusion.